People who have hooked up others with a massive age gap between you. How did that happen? Best friend's mom in high school was going through a divorce. Known her since I was in 3rd grade. One night I go over there to hang with friend. She answers the door all disheveled looking. Seems she'd been crying. Friend's not home. Are you okay, Ems? Friendsman? Ugh. I let myself in and we talk and drink some wine. She's all sad. No self-confidence. I am never going to find another man, Emma. Booty, tell her she's crazy. You're beautiful. Hardworking. Loving. Amazing mom. You'll get scooped up real quick, she laughs. I say I'm serious. She has nothing to worry about. Emma. Friendsdad is just a dick. He will never be happy with anyone if he couldn't see what he had before him. Cue silence and flirty look. We hook up. Next morning she thanked me for everything and I left. She got married like 3 years later and has seemed super happy ever since. Did ya boy find out? I delivered her newspaper and went to collect for the money and she apparently didn't have any. Instead invited me in and gave 22-year-old me the hour of a lifetime. Margaret was 58. So that's what Margaret Thatcher did on weekends. Old rich Jewish lady hit on me as I was bringing groceries to my car. Guess she likes young black men. She helped pay off my student loans. Get a sugar mama. Edit. So the theme seems to be older women love younger men. Or younger men love saying they banged older women and don't care to tell people about the time they FK'd a young girl. She had a crush on me. I thought she was very hot. But holy shit. She was at least a decade older than me. How intimidating. I asked her to join me at a bar for karaoke night. We just talked that night. The next week, she invited me over to her place to watch the first GOP nomination debate for the then upcoming 2016 election. Somehow, romance still bloomed. She hit on me some more. But holy shit. She's at least a decade older than me. Eventually, we kept glancing at each other until she leaned over and kissed me. I kissed back. And she crawled on my lap and took her shirt off and it went from there. Almost 3 years later. We're getting married this April. Found the president of France, guys. Hooked up with a single mum at a small town music festival when I was 17. I think she thought I was older than I was. In college I went to a bar that attracted an older crowd to watch a friend's band play there. I was 21 at the time. Most people there were late 30s, early 40s. Was wandering around casually taking to people. Talked to a 40-something for a while. To my surprise she invited me back to her place. Drunk me said yes. She still had it for 40 plus. I stayed over that night. The next morning as I was leaving I crossed paths with her son in the kitchen as I was walking out. He was about my age. He stood there confused for a second. I saw it in his face the moment he realized what happened. I turned and walked to the front door and he yelled, "Really bro?" Full stop. I smirked. Shrugged. Then opened the door and left. You FK'd his mom, dude. Cruise ship. I was 16. She was. Not. Copious amounts of alcohol. Poor life choices. You know. I learned things. She was undoubtedly disappointed. I repeated that pattern for a while, I'm afraid. Edit. Learned. I learned things. It was educational for sure. I was 21 and she. 37 and a fitness instructor. Met at a bar. Yada. 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 She took me home. Found out throughout the course of smashing 3 times that night into the early morning that she was going through a divorce because her husband admitted to being gay. He left her for his best friend. As the saying goes. Right place. Right time. I learned a lot that night and realized so many years later the reason why she was so against anal that night. Anal on the first date is a lot to ask of anyone, tbh. Regardless of the circumstances. Looking back. This was probably abuse of some form. But it never felt that way. I was 17 and she was exactly 3 times my age. 52 years old. She was an aerobics instructor at a senior assisted living facility. And very attractive because of her job. I was working in the kitchen. Washing dishes. Because it was my final year of high school and my dad thought I needed to hold down a job and learn some responsibility. I learned a lot more than that. I double checked that math. I lust after older men all the time. They don't lust for me back very often. Probably the oldest is about a 25-year age difference. Based on the title, I initially thought this thread was about multi-generational drug use. I now see I was wrong about that. Played in a cover band in my 20s. The other guys were in their 30s and had a fan base that matched their age. Not mine. One of them asked me out for drinks and we ended up hooking up a few times. Didn't tell the band or her kids, who are closer to my age than hers. Or her kids, who are closer to my age than hers. I would certainly hope so. Expat in Japan with an international age gap story. I was 23. She was 48. We met casually online and decided to hang out. I asked to go to lunch. She skipped the games and came straight to my place. 2 years later. We're still together and I cannot fathom dating someone under 40. Fun anecdote. At first she sidestepped conversations about age until I busted her thanks to being a huge nerd. Mentioning the 1977 cult horror film Horseshoe elicited a knee-jerk response of "Oh my god. I saw it in the theater." And I will forever be jealous that she got to see Horseshoe on the big screen. We were co-workers. I was 21. In uni and she was 33. A mother of 2. We hung out a few times and then it just happened. Went on for 6 months or so. I'm only interested in men much older than me. My ex was 37 years older than me and we were together for 4 years. We met at work. I was a saleswoman and he was a security guard. The man I'm with now is turning 60 this year. I'm turning 31. We met at a party. Not me but one of my close friends, 26/M, is dating a 44-year woman with 4 kids and a pending divorce. They've been together almost a year. Seem to have stemmed from the mutual desire for sex. Lots and lots of it. We worked together at a cinema. He was technical guy and I sold popcorn. I was invited to help him with this and one thing led to another. We managed to keep that going for about 3 years. He turned 43. I turned 20. And then I left the job. No regrets. Drunk hookups. When I was 27 I first had a fling with a 41-year-old bored housewife and then with 18-year-old girl. First lasted for 2 weeks. The other one for 2 months. My wife of 8 years is 16 years younger than I am. And honestly, it just happened. I have friends who are about 10 years younger than I am. And she was dating the brother of one of them. He dumped her. And 8 months later, we started dating. I was kind of hesitant to ask her out. But when we spent time together, we were able to hold intelligent conversations that were mutually interesting. She was cute. And liked my looks, still does. Thankfully. It just kind of developed into a loving relationship. She was 22 when we started dating. And is 32 now. And is pregnant with our first child. She constantly tells me she pisses her co-workers off by bragging about how good I am to her. She has co-workers that are older than I am all the way down to some who are younger than she is. So it's not an age thing. We're just as much in love today as we were 8 years ago. And are content to spend the rest of our lives together. I was an 18-year-old college freshman virgin. She was a 26-year-old super senior. Met her through mutual friends. And she was on me like white on rice from the start. Ended up in a toxic, manipulative relationship for about 5 months before I realized I was being toyed with. By that time I was out a fair bit of money. A few friends. And my grades were in the shitter from stress. Later found out she had a thing for virgin guys. And had done the same shit to several others. But she was the first woman to show any physical interest in me at all. So it kept me up pretty good for a while. 0/10. Would not recommend. Still regret losing my V card to her. Wish I had saved it for the wonderful woman I've spent the last 5 years with. I've been with women in their 30s since I was 19. Met most of them through WoW, one through Reddit, when you're online. Age becomes more of a point of intrigue than a deal breaker like it would be IRL. Do you understand the gravity of what you just said? You met actual women in WoW. That were in their 30s. You got laid by said women. While and from playing WoW. You achieved something not many others could. We met on FetLife. At the time she was 22 and I was 40. We talked for a day or so and then we decided to meet up for sex. It's now 6 years later and we got married in September on 16. Currently dating somebody 14 years older than me, 23/37. He started working at the church I grew up in when I was in early high school. And I always loved him. Witty, wise, kind, and handsome. My whole family loves him. Never thought he could look at me romantically. So I tried thinking of him as a brother. Was always really frustrated by a church rule that said he couldn't be alone with young women. Never crossed my mind to try anything. Just wanted to hang out with my favorite person. He stopped working there a couple years ago. And I'm not a Christian anymore. But we kept in touch. I left a 3+ year relationship last July. And when I told him about it, seemed like a dam just broke inside him. Turned out he'd been wrestling with feelings for me for several years. The age difference guilt over our previous mentor-mentee dynamic doesn't seem to bother him quite as much anymore. And I am having the time of my life loving and being loved by my favorite person. I had a roommate whose girlfriend moved in with him. He wound up not being able to pay his rent. So I evicted him. She dumped him. But let her stay till she got on her feet. She's 13 years younger than me. Once he left, she started feeling her oats. Married for 16 years now. Just recently turned 18 and he was 34. Tinder. Now I'm attracted to older guys but none of them to me are. Probably scared that you are actually 17. We were co-workers. I was 8 years younger than him and we actually fell in love and were together for about 3 years. We broke up and I still think he is the love of my life. Her 39. Me 21. Not really a massive age gap but it was an incredibly fun FWB situation with no strings attached. She's still one of the easiest women I've ever been with. Mature. Intelligent. Hardworking. Incredible in bed. TLDR flirted with a customer at my job. Banging and playing with fake titties ensued. I worked as a salesperson at one of the large phone companies in a retail store. I had a woman come in looking to get a new phone. Very attractive. Athletic blonde. I was 24 at the time and she was 36. Anyway. We flirted a little bit while she was there but I honestly thought it was just her way of haggling. After she left I noticed she forgot one of her items. I had her number since I worked for the phone company and texted her to tell her she left it. She mentioned that she lived about an hour away and that it would have to be something she would get later but she kept going with the conversation. The text got more and more flirty and eventually I volunteered to bring the item to her place. She was in lingerie when I arrived. We both like comic books and sci-fi. He has a couple of Star Wars costumes. I have a Trek uniform. Things get freaky. I was 22 and had a thing for old dudes so I went on Craigslist and found a bunch of guys that were like 50ish and went and FK'd them. Grindr. I enjoy diversity in my sex life. Your username says as much. Is 10 years considered massive? Me. 40s. Her. 30s. Online dating. Been together 4 years now. Zero regrets. Crazy story. Thanks for sharing. Met her on Tinder. She's 21. I'm 38. She had BDSM in her profile and I super liked a V. We met for one drink. Went to a park and she gave me an amazing blowy on the park bench. Went back to my place and FK'd for 5 hours. We see each other weekly. It's been going on since October. I've been on both sides of this. Dated a 50-ish woman when I was in my early 20s. Met her on an airplane and we dated for 6 months or so. Hooked up with a 40-ish or 50-ish woman when I was in my 30s. Met at salsa. Came home and banged. With a condom, thank goodness. After we had sex she told me she had herpes. Bitch. Luckily I didn't get it. Younger girls. In my mid 30s. Hooked up with a 19-year-old college girl for 2 months or so. Trailed off unceremoniously. We liked each other but not enough to make something of it. Another 19-year-old. We dated for 5 years. Damn, I love that girl. Ended due to being in different places in life. Bonus. I did hook up with my teacher a few times. But I was 4 or 5 years older than she was. Not that big a gap, but I have feeling it's what you pervs want to hear about. I was 16 with daddy issues and he just got out of a bad marriage. He was sweet. He took me on my first date. We went on a Ferris wheel and I used to bring him home cooked meals. I just wanted an older man's approval. And he was in a bad place and needed that attention. He was about 30 years my senior. He kept me out of trouble for a while, so I'm not complaining. He was sweet. A 46-year-old dude asking a 16-year-old on a date is not sweet. It is predatory.